Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Koziak, and I'm so glad to see so many of you here today. I've been reading the paper for many months, and if I believed everything I read, this election is already over. It encourages me to see others in our community that have the intelligence to decide for themselves whether or not we still need to have a campaign and a vote. At least 8 of us felt very strongly enough when we collected our signatures and paid our deposits. As someone with a degree in civil engineering, I recognize our city has many infrastructure deficits. We have been and continue to address these. One aspect of this is the rehabilitation of mature neighborhoods. Many areas of our city still run on a combined storm and sewer system, whereby we necessarily treat some water that could reasonably go untreated into our river. As part of a long-term strategy, the city is addressing this responsibility. Much of our city is supplied with good, clean drinking water, which is delivered through aging cast iron pipes. These pipes are currently experiencing deterioration and failure. Just 2 weeks ago, my home was without running water for 2 nights when the water main in our alley ruptured and EPCOR had to shut the valves on the affected pipe. Last year, the natural gas lines to my house were replaced with new plastic ones. With this aging infrastructure in mind, the city needs to expand its policy to rehabilitate older neighborhoods. Tremendous advancements have and continue to be made in materials engineering so that the infrastructure that we install today do not become a burden on future generations of taxpayers for as long as possible. Many of these aging neighborhoods are experiencing tremendous property tax increases. That's hard to justify amidst the potholes, pipe bursts, and general infrastructure failure. My concern is that we are missing out on an important opportunity. What is my concern? What is my idea? Despite the obvious safety concerns of electrocution and their susceptibility to damage from weather-related events like ice storms, overhead power lines are an aesthetic concern. What do I propose? Simply that when we budget to rehabilitate a neighborhood, when we physically go in and tear up the roads and alleys, to put in the new plumbing and the new sewer and the new gas, that we also put in new underground wires, just like we have done in all our new communities since the 70s. My vision of the city is one of clear, clean vistas, uninterrupted by ugly lines. I want you to take a look as you leave and travel our city and notice these lines. I want you to want us to eventually get rid of them. This is not a priority, but it is a goal, and until we make it a goal, it will not happen. On the topic of taxes and government, let us talk for a moment on an idea I would like to propose. I'm a businessman, and as a business, we are allowed to deduct our property taxes from our income when determining our income tax liability. Landlords of apartments and houses can deduct property tax from their income when determining their income tax liability. Homeowners who occupy their own homes have to pay for their property taxes with the income which is already paid tax. They've already paid tax on. The provincial government is not the only other level of government currently running budgetary surpluses. So is our federal government. Perhaps homeowners who occupy their own houses should be able to deduct property tax from their taxable income. Now, of course, income tax is not a municipal power. However, if elected, I will use my position of mayor to encourage my counterparts in the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to pressure the federal and provincial governments to recognize this as a reasonable and proper deduction. The taxation issue that I would also like to address is off-site levies. Off-site levies are imposed by bylaw as a capital infrastructure costs recovery mechanism. It imposes a charge payable upon developable lands to ensure that new capital infrastructure like water, sewer, and since January of 2004, roads, including overpasses and interchanges, that are needed to accommodate the new development, so that they are paid for by that new development, at least proportionate to the benefits received. This is a mechanism used by most municipalities in order to recover the cost of the new development. It is the difference between planning and paying for your new infrastructure needs on a one-off, development-by-development basis, as the city has done historically, versus actually planning for and anticipating the costs of the new infrastructure. As taxpayers, we should all be concerned, generally speaking, of not using off-site levies. By not using off-site levies means that millions of dollars in infrastructure costs are being absorbed by the city's tax base unnecessarily. You've heard of how Edmonton is getting shortchanged by the province. At first blush, this may seem true, but why did the numbers seem to work against us? The formula seems reasonable, 48% based on per capita, 48% based on assessed value, and 4% on roads. So why does Edmonton's numbers seem to come out so low? I'm suggesting perhaps we aren't doing as well because, as the capital of the province, we have a disproportionate share of provincial assets. In other words, the legislature building, Grant MacEwan College, NAIT, and U of A are among many provincial assets in our city that consequently do not form part of the overall assessed base, the second 48% in the equation. I believe that there is an opportunity for dialogue with our provincial counterparts to discuss how that affects the funding formula and how Edmonton might reasonably expect additional monies. It seems a better strategy than biting the hand that feeds you. We need to work cooperatively with our partners and our neighbors. A high tide raises all boats, and the tide in Alberta is higher than ever. A year ago, there were no promises of additional money for the province. Now we'll be receiving billions and the likelihood of more. We need to remove whatever obstacles to doing business we can control and let others worry about the things they control. This includes excessive bureaucratic roadblocks. It includes no new unnecessary and unpopular taxes, like a tax on the sale of your home. We need to plan for a city that will attract intellectual and capital investment, and how we can handle that investment to ensure success. As my grandfather used to say long before Bill Smith did, we live in the best city, in the best province, in the best country in the world. We really do live in the best country. We live in relative safety. Although not immune to events on the global perspective, we are generally untouched. Our dollar is at long last finally showing its potential, and we will all have greater buying power as a result. Our federal government is recording surpluses which will have to be addressed. We really do live in the best province. This province is the economic driver of the country. There's more work being done, more money being spent, and more opportunity than ever in our history. We are the only debt-free province, so we don't owe anyone anything. We are watched with envy by all. We run tremendous surpluses, and they have to be reduced through lower taxes or distribution. We do live in the best city. We are the most northerly city of our size in the continent. We enjoy tremendous summers and beautiful long sunny days and endure lengthy winters when you can go to work in the dark and leave at the end of the day in the dark. Our clean air gives us good opportunities to view the sky. With global warming, our coolish summers and warming winters will make our city even more desirable. We know that with all these assets, we will continue to be a beacon for people and investment from outside our city, outside our province, and outside our country. As a born and raised Edmontonian, I know we are the enemy of the world. We need to plan for even greater goals. We need to project the image of a city that leads this province and this country in pride and attitude.